Welcome back. This is Joe Blasco again, and very, very pleased and happy to have with us this week Mr. GregCannom. Greg, thanks again for coming in. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We've been talking about so many things. In the last show, we covered a multitude of technical questions, which were, I know, incredibly interesting to our audience. We've had many, many emails since that show, and many questions have come in. And I want to thank you for helping us answer those emails and those questions. And don't forget, you can send your emails directly to info@muatv.com, and just make certain that you are specifying exactly who the artist is that you would like to have to answer your questions, okay? Greg, let's go back to the very beginning of your career, before you actually became a professional. You said that you were inspired by many films. Of those films, and I know there's the Wizard of Oz, The List of Adrian Messenger, The Exorcist, the original Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. Of all of these films, which do you feel impacted you the most?
I remember being a little kid, The Wizard of Oz was, but I remember Alice Through the Looking Glass. That was done about the same time.
Yeah, I remember
that. Had brilliant, I think they were all slip makeups.
Yes,
that were done.
yes.
W.C. Fields was the
Yes, I
egg
remember that. I've never seen it. I remember seeing stills
I remember,
from it.
I watched it a lot when I was a kid. I remember that had a great impact on me. But, and it was later I saw a List of Adrian Messenger, which was pretty amazing.
Well, that was done, the List of Adrian Messenger was done at Universal Studios, and it was actually supervised by Bud Westmore, who actually simply supervised it. But the work was done by John Chambers. And the crew that they had there, I believe Carl Silvera. There were a number of very, very talented makeup artists that worked in sculpting and in doing all of the mold making. Many of the same people who worked on The Creature from the Black Lagoon, also under the supervision of Bud Westmore. The List of Adrian Messenger, that was one film, honestly, that really, that enabled me to see that this was makeup, because in this film you weren't just seeing the characters and then not seeing them with the makeup as you would in any of the other films, but in this film, The List of Adrian Messenger, and if you haven't seen it, you should get it. It's in black and white. And they were actually afraid to do it in color because they weren't certain of whether they were going to be able to pull it off. But I'm pretty sure they would have been able to. But it's a Universal International picture, back when Universal was Universal International. And it's a film that stars Burt Lancaster and Frank Sinatra and so many stars. But at the end of the film, they actually, and they're all playing in different disguises. And at the end, you don't know who's who. And at the end of the film, the makeups are actually removed. So you get to see who is playing each of these characters. And that's what fascinated me. I can remember talking my grandfather into taking me to the movies to see this. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be a makeup artist. I want to do what they did. Yeah. Then finally he understood. He was from the old country. He didn't know makeup. He was a shoemaker and a plumber, so so I had to convince him that this was a serious profession. But let's get back to you. Let's talk about the Wizard of Oz. Jack Dawn at MGM, who was the head of the department there prior to William Tuttle. That film, how did you feel when you saw that for the first time?
It was amazing. It holds up today.
Right. And
those makeups are just unbelievable.
Right. That's the Cowardly Lion.
The outfit, but even the scarecrow, the detail, the way they blend, and that's all foam. And I thought it was all,
construction
at the
cheesecloth.
time.
Yeah, but not.
No,
it's foam.
And the Tin Man, and
Now, did Charlie Shrem work on that? He probably was.
I'm sure he did.
And I would imagine that perhaps maybe even George Bow may have been called in. You know, I'm going to be...
Didn't he invent the foam for
George,
that? That was the first
George
film?
Bow, yes. He invented it, so you know
For
that
that
he
film,
had
I
been
think.
brought in. Possibly it was for that
I know it
film.
was the first film that used it.
Well, in 1939, that's when the Wizard of Oz was produced. It was the same year that they did The Hunchback of Notre Dame with Charles Laughton, and he did that makeup.
Oh, that was before.
That was at Paramount. That was at Paramount. So I'm not certain which came out first.
But what was interesting was that I think that was the same year that Alice Through the Looking Glass came out,
Yes.
and that was all slip
Rubber, which are
makeup,
shell
because
pieces.
they didn't have the foam at
Right,
that time.
right, exactly.
So
Who did that? Do you know?
I can't remember, but there's some beautiful makeups. Considering,
Yeah.
I might be wrong. They might be foam, but I think I remember it being slip. The
Yeah,
whole film.
I know. I read where it was slip.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that you're correct in your assumption there. Let's move on. Let's talk about a film that you've done, that you've won the Oscar for, the Academy Award, the highest recognition achievable in this industry, given to us by our peers. And that Oscar is one of the Oscars sitting behind us, and that was for the film Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Michelle Burke was the department head for that film,
The straight makeup.
and for all the straight makeups, and also for the vampire beauty makeups that
She
she
did
did,
that.
and they were beautifully designed
Yes.
by Michelle. And I believe that Matthew Mungle also worked with you on that
Yes.
film. Tell me all about it, from beginning to end, as much as you can recall.
Well, I met with Coppola, and I was just hired on to do the old age makeup because I was kind of known for that. And
The age makeup on Gary Oldman.
yes,
For the title character,
at the point, that's
Dracula.
all there was an age makeup on
Yes.
Gary Oldman.
Yes.
And he became young, and which Michelle did, and beautiful work, making all the young makeups and that. She did the scar and everything too on other actors, but and she designed the wig.
She did,
That
because that was my
big
next
white
question.
bun. Yeah.
See, I understood that
She designed that
there
wig,
was
which
a-
was amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was so different, so different. Now, I understood that there was an art director that was Japanese,
Yes.
and when you look at that, she must have collaborated with the art director.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah, and because there's a very Japanese feel to it, almost like the geisha type large bouffant rolls that I found incredibly interesting.
The designer, the art designer, she did the costume.
Yes, the costumes and
And
all of that.
she was in charge of me. Coppola said at one point,
Yes.
said she's in charge, you have to do what she wants you to.
Yes.
And then at one point she said, I don't know anything about makeup, you have to do it.
Yes.
But Coppola was brilliant in the sense that he gave me a lot of freedom. And then as we did the movie, we came up with things as we went along
Yes.
in the show,
Yeah.
because there was the scene in the graveyard when
That werewolf type makeup.
yes, he was
That-
supposed to come off the ship,
Yes.
killed everybody as a wolf, ran to the graveyard, and then have his way with her,
Yeah.
And I said, and Aiko designed this beautiful costume.
Yes.
Beautiful big hat,
Yes.
rubber texture, beautiful. And I said, where did that costume come from? He was the wolf. Doesn't make sense. I think he should be this beast
Yes.
that you can, hair and half wolf, half man, and,
Yes.
and you can see the skin through the hair and a real sexual beast and everything. And Coppola, yeah.
Not a bad
sounds
idea,
good.
kid.
So we went with that, and I did that creature, and that was an interesting makeup because I did 3 designs. I did 2 designs initially, and they one of them looked like Planet of the Apes a little
Yeah.
bit. And I went, and a week before I went, this just isn't right, and I designed this 3rd one.
You sculpted it.
Sculpted
You
it.
actually
Mitch
sculpted
Devane
it, yes.
sculpted it with
Mitch
me.
Devane, he's one of my graduates.
Yeah.
We'll have to get
He's
Mitch
incredible.
to come in. Mitch, you have to come in and see us.
And and it was really different, what I liked about it. And so I went in to do the makeup that day on Gary Oldman, and Coppola came in and I said, which one do you want to do? And I said, well, I think maybe this one. And that was the one that kind of looked like Planet of the Apes. I went,
Yes.
okay. So I started making him up, and I'm going, this just looks too much like Planet of the Apes, and I don't like it. And I called Coppola back in. I said, I think we should go with this one. I think it's different.
Yes.
It
It
would
had
go
a
better.
bat-like quality
Yes.
to it.
Yes. So I took the makeup off Gary, put that one on, and thank God it worked and was beautiful.
So you had another appliance ready to go?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We put it on him.
Very smart.
So it's one of those things where you just you have to make a decision.
Right. You're thinking ahead. You think on your feet there.
And it's
absolutely.
scary, and luckily I made the right decision.
How long did it take to do each day? How long did it take to apply the aging makeup on Gary Oldman?
That took about 3.5 hours. I would do the makeup. Matthew would help me. Matthew would then start doing his hands. I would make up and paint the face and do little veins and everything. The wig and all the hair work was done by Stuart Artingstall. He's
Yes.
the one that made these
Yeah.
beautiful wigs, and he did all the suits.
Yes.
And just, he ties one hair at a time.
Yeah, he's
It's
incredibly
spandex.
talented. I've met Stuart.
He did all the Greystoke.
Yes.
That's where I met him. And
I met him through Matthew Mungle. I believe I had dinner at Matthew Mungle's home, beautiful home in Universal City, 2 or 3 years ago, and I met Stuart.
Yeah.
Very, very talented man.
Oh, the hair, no one.
It's flawless. Yeah, it's absolutely flawless. I'll tell you what we're going to do right now. We're going to be right back in just one moment, right after this word. Don't go away. We'll have more with GregCannom.